Hey everybody, it's Rob the Cherry City Guns and Ammo, and today we're taking a look at my newest AR-10 build, and it's a shorty, and it's chambered in 8.6 Blackout. Stick around. Alright, so once again, 8.6 Blackout. I don't know if you were paying any attention, but when I shot that, I'm not wearing any hearing protection, and it's not just because I have a suppressor on here. It's because I'm shooting subsonic ammo. So if you haven't heard of 8.6 Blackout, I'd actually be surprised because it's kind of a hot item right now. A lot of people are really getting very interested in this cartridge, despite the fact that it is not a SAMI approved cartridge. It currently does not have any SAMI specs on it. Once it does, there will be a lot more factory chambering offerings from ammunition manufacturers. Currently, there are not many ammo companies making ammo for this round. Fort Scott Munitions, Gorilla, there's a few others that are, but really not much. So for the most part, this thing's kind of a hand loader's game right now. But let's take a look at this cartridge. So what the 8.6 Blackout is basically the big brother to the 300 Blackout. They make this by basically shortening a 6.5 Creedmoor brass and then necking it up to a 338 diameter bullet. So if you're using the heavier 338 bullets, like these are 300 grainers, it's naturally subsonic. Just like once you go up to like the 220s and above on the 300 Blackout, you just have so little case capacity. Once you have the bullet interfering with that much of the actual capacity of the chamber, or I mean of the casing, there's just not enough powder to push it into supersonic velocities. So it's an inherently subsonic caliber once you're using a heavy enough bullet. Here's the really interesting thing. To get the stabilization you need in such a heavy 338 bullet, this has a 1 in 3 inch twist, which is kind of bananas. And if you don't know what that means, basically it means in the time that it takes the bullet to travel 3 inches down the barrel, it makes one complete rotation. That is incredibly fast. When you look at a lot of your hunting cartridges, your 270s, 308s, 30-06, a lot of those, not all of them, but a lot of those are around the 1 in 10 twist rate, somewhere in that area. Some of the really fast ones out there for like 300 Blackout are like a 1 in 7, and this thing's a 1 in 3. So it's a very fast twist rate. Has some advantages and it has some disadvantages. One of the advantages is they have all this rotational energy, and that's proven to make this a very, very deep penetrating cartridge. Like it just penetrates for miles, and it's just because like it just drills through because that bullet's spinning at such a fast rate. One of the downsides of it, especially if you're running suppressed and you don't want to lose your suppressors, with supersonic ammunition, you can't use a jacketed bullet. You have to use pretty much solid copper bullets because that rotation is so fast. If you're running supersonic, the rotational energy is so great that it will actually rip the bullet apart. And I mean, number one, you're not going to have accuracy because you're going to be spitting chunks of bullet out. But if you're running suppressed, what has happened to people is they blow their suppressor off, like off the end of the gun, because that bullet has come apart, and then you have it just hitting all over the internals and just really making your suppressor have a bad day. Now what we are shooting today is jacketed rounds. You can run jacketed rounds as long as you're running subsonic. But again, you're getting into very pricey bullets. What I'm running here, these are 300 grain Lapua Sinars. I loaded these rounds myself, and so far they seem to be shooting really well. But again, it's subsonic, so the jacket is okay. It's not ripping them apart. And I verified this is shooting nice round concentric holes. It's not tumbling in any way, shape, or form, so my suppressor is safe. But if you want to run, like I have bullets at home to develop for hunting loads for this gun, using a 200 grain Barnes TTSX, and those are definitely going to be very supersonic, but they're a solid copper bullet, so we'll be safe there too. But that's the thing, you have to get solid copper if you're running supersonic. This was developed by Jeff Brittingham. Jeff Brittingham is the owner of Q, that make the Honey Badger and a bunch of the other really cool guns out there, the Fix rifle, all that. He intended this to be able to be shot in like a 8-inch to 16-inch barrel. This one is a 12-inch barrel. Again, this is a SBR. I did this as a Form 1 SBR, and a Form 1, for those that don't understand, means that I didn't buy a short-barreled rifle. That would be done under Form 4. I built a short-barreled rifle, which means I had to submit all the paperwork, get my tax stamp back from the ATF, get my full approval before I could assemble this gun, and then I had to go and get it engraved, listing that I built a Form 1 rifle. Anyway, so that's how you do this all legally. And it really, you don't need a 16-inch barrel. This really works great with the 12-inch barrels because you have such a small amount of powder, especially if you're running subs. And I will run supers, but I really built this to run subsonic. So let's not do quite so much talking. Let's do some shooting because you've only seen one shot. We'll load up a few rounds here, and we'll do some shooting. Now the reason that they had to shorten the 6.5 Creedmoor is because this is intended to use such long bullets. To be able to get them into a factory AR-10 magazine, they had to shorten the casing. So you're still able to run your normal AR-10 magazines. Your normal AR-10 bolt carrier group still works on this. Really the only difference between this and your standard AR-10 is the barrel. So if you already own an AR-10, you can just go out and get an 8.6 Blackout barrel and throw it on there and you're ready to roll. But if you don't want to do all the legal paperwork, you have to get a 16-incher, which there's several companies making barrels now. The barrel I have on this gun is a Faxon barrel, and I used a Faxon handguard on this build. Basically, I built this upper. This is an AR-10 lower I already had. I just did the Form 1 on it so that I could run it with a shortened upper. But let's, I've got the sight in at 50 yards, and we've got some targets there. Right there at 60, we've got some steel targets. Let's shoot those things real quick. That was a silhouette. Let's shoot our red 10-inch plate. And now let's see if we can hit that little 4-inch plate. Oh yeah. That's just so easy to shoot. I'll tell you what, one thing about this rifle is the recoil. It is so light on the recoil and easy to shoot. And even running subsonic, they're still hitting so hard because you're running a 300 grain bullet. It's a very heavy bullet. I'm going to load up some more, and then we'll see if we can do some stuff at distance with this. We'll be right back. All right, I want to try a few shots at longer distance, but before I do that, I want to shoot one across the chronograph. Adjust it here. I already know that it's subsonic. There's no supersonic craft to it when you shoot. But I'm just curious as to what the velocity is. And my chronograph seems to be acting up here. Might be getting close to time for a new chronograph. Gotta do a little countdown thingy. Alright, let's see what we get here. 906. Yeah, definitely very subsonic. Alright, let's see what these guys will do at 100 yards, because I have not shot this gun at 100 yards yet. Then we'll talk about some other aspects of the build here. See if we can hit our silhouette. Yep. Nice. 3 for 3 on the silhouette. So if you look down and to the left of the silhouette, we've got a head. size and shape of a human head. Let's see if I can nail that at 100 yards. And I missed it. I don't know if I'm shooting under it or what, but I did miss. Maybe I need a hold at the top of the head. We won't talk anymore about the rest of this build. So you know, I said I already owned the lower. The lower is from a Palmetto State Armory Gen 3, you know, PSA 10 or PA 10. That's what it is, yeah. And I built the upper. What I put on it for optics. This is a Vortex Strike Eagle 4-24 by 50 with the Vortex cantilever scope mount. Probably sounds insane that I've got a 24 power scope on a subsonic cartridge, although I am going to shoot some supers. And even with the subs, people are actually shooting this at a pretty surprising distance because of such a high ballistic coefficient of that heavy 338 caliber bullet. People are still shooting them out at a long ways. I've seen videos of them shooting 300 grain subsonic rounds at 750 yards, which is just bananas to me. But let's go back out there. I really want to hit that head. I know I can. I just got to figure out what the point of aim is at for it. There we go. I held right at the top of the head. There we go. Yep, seems if I hold right basically at the bolt that holds the head to the post. And the silhouette is just too easy. It was pretty surprising to me that, you know, 906 feet per second, we're still getting full bolt lock back on an empty mag. Everything is cycling with 100% reliability. I think this thing is going to be a ton of fun. Now I will tell you, I had one challenge here, and luckily I know the right people made this a little bit easier. This Faxon barrel, now I don't know if they've changed, if they have another option, but it comes threaded, what is it, M18 by 1.5 or some weird threading. And that is because that's kind of what Q spec'd out for their Honey Badger, or not the Honey Badger, the fixed rifle. And it has an angle, a taper at the back, and that's meant to match up with the Q Cherry Bomb muzzle brake, and then you would use one of their suppressed systems to go over that muzzle brake. I went with Silencer Co. ASR brake on this because I run my Silencer Co. Suppressor that has the ASR mount. So they don't make a 338 cal ASR muzzle brake that fits the M18 by 1.5 or whatever it is, I forget. And it doesn't have the tapered back, but when you get the barrel from Faxon, they include a little taper piece, so if you're not using the Cherry Bomb, you've got a nice square shoulder for it to lock up against. Silencer Co. does sell a 338 ASR brake with the 5/8 by 24 threading. Luckily, I've got a good friend who's a machinist. When I bought the Faxon barrel, I didn't even have it shipped to my house. I had it shipped to my buddy who lives about an hour away from me, who was a machinist, and he rethreaded this barrel 5/8 24. Between the rethreading and then using the little taper adapter that Faxon includes, I was able to put the ASR muzzle brake on there. I currently have to change batteries because my camera's beeping at me, so we'll come back after I change the batteries. We'll do some more shooting. All right, fresh battery, we're back at it. Now, one thing I will say about the 8.6 Blackout, it is a pain that for supersonic you have to run monolithic bullets. However, there are a few companies, I believe Moss Tech is one of them, that is starting to play with a 1 5" twist. There's no SAMI spec on this yet. There's no SAMI approval. This is still technically considered like a Wildcat cartridge. So there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. Their companies are starting to mess with like 1 5, and they are finding success in being able to shoot supersonic jacketed bullets as long as they're a thicker jacket, and they're holding together with good success, and yet they're still stabilizing these super heavy 300 grain rounds. So if an 8.6 Blackout is something you want to get into, it could possibly be worthwhile to wait a little bit and see what develops as far as that goes, unless you're perfectly fine running nothing but monolithic bullets for supers, or you're only really interested in running subsonics. So one thing to keep in mind if you are considering an 8.6 Blackout build. Just one thing that you may take into consideration. Let's goof around with this a little bit more, because I love shooting suppressed and not using hearing protection because it's just so nice. Let's go back to our 60 yards and do some goofing around here. Let's do the silhouette, 10-inch plate, 4-inch plate. Yeah, I've never seen a subsonic anything that hits as hard as this does. It's so cool. All right, back to 100. Let's do the silhouette. And we're empty because I only put 5 rounds in there. Anyway, we're gonna do a lot more content with the 8.6 Blackout. I can already tell I'm gonna be a big fan of this gun. And here's crazy. I haven't shot this a ton, but the suppressor's barely warm. Normally, shooting suppressed, you couldn't do this because your suppressor would be quite hot. Barely warm. So, easy to suppress, light recoil. What's not to like in a really cool platform? But yeah, we'll have a lot more 8.6 content. I'm going to try out all different kinds of loads and see what this thing likes and develop like some hunting loads for it. Try out some different bullets that are currently on the market, and then I might be getting sent some bullets for this that are not yet on the market for testing out. So that might be really cool. So make sure you've subscribed and you hit the bell notification, so that way when I get some of that stuff to play with in this gun, you see all that stuff, and you might learn some interesting things about this very new, very, very cool cartridge. Anyway guys, thanks for coming back and watching the videos every week. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.